Hey everyone, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and we're not quite done with Alpine Tracker Ageless Mentor just yet. This is a second version of the Alpine Tracker Ageless Mentor deck known as Funstable Wasteland, and my goodness do I like this deck a lot. This is a mid-range aggro deck using a bunch of like weird and silly combos and basically relying on synergy to get across your damage as opposed to single units. So there's a lot of fun little cute Johnny tricks here, and we're going to go over each of them in turn and talk about what specifically we're trying to do. First things first, we have Northwind Herald. Northwind Herald is our early drop in this game. We're playing this card down using Levitate, Seek Power, or Torch, along with Unstable Form, and getting this down tends to get us down an early 1 or 2 drop unit. We can also play Whispering Wind on 2, but those are our mostly aggro units, and these are our cheapest units that we are playing. Northwind Herald plays down on turn 2 with a Seek Power and a Levitate, or a Seek Power and a Torch, and even if you're throwing the Torch into your opponent's face, this can often be worth it, because what you do is you play this Northwind Herald as a 0 drop. At the beginning of your next turn, it turns back into a 6 drop, and then you Unstable Form it into a random 7 drop. Now, there are very few 7 drops that aren't amazing. Hibernating Behemoth is the only one that I can think of that's bad. So this is typically a really good way to close out a game very, very quickly if you want to like have a really crazy combo in your deck. This isn't the only use, of course, that we have for Northwind Herald. We have other synergies here as well, and we're going to talk about those too. But basically, a cheap, effective, quick flyer that is fairly aggressive and has like a really, really solid combo associated with it is one of our premier lead-off cards. We also use Whispering Wind to discard unstable forms to draw other cards. Discarding echo cards gets you card advantage because you are trading half of a card for a full card. You can also discard lands that you don't need. You can discard cards that you feel won't get you what you want. Like, for example, if you have a Levitate and you don't want to cast it just to draw a random card, you can just discard it to get a good 2-drop or 3-drop or 4-drop or 5-drop, as the case may be. Whispering Wind is a really, really solid card that tends to really get you to your most powerful cards in your deck and prevents you from getting too heavily screwed. It's also another target for torches and early things so that the Northwind Herald has a higher chance of surviving, which is important to the overall scheme of the deck. That's it for the early drops. This deck is actually more mid-range in terms of its general aggressiveness. Similar to a Stone Scar burn list, it has very few 2-drops, but it has a lot in terms of 3s, 4s, and 5s. So let's talk about the 3, the one that's really important, our Time Splash, Ageless Mentor. Now, all units in your hand get with cost 4 or more get +2/+2 is, of course, a really, really solid setup. This not only buffs Alpine Tracker, but it buffs a number of other extremely powerful cards in our deck. But mainly it buffs units with charge, which is the main reason that we want it here. Buffing units with charge essentially turns them into rather efficient burn spells. The Alpine Tracker becomes a 6 damage burn spell for a very short amount of damage. Like, essentially it just hits everything for 1, including your opponent, and then attacks in for 5, typically clearing out a lot of chump blockers along the way. So it's almost always a guaranteed 6 damage for 4. We also run Obliterate in this deck, which is 6 damage for 5, and then we have Soulfire Drake, which is 7 damage for 5 if you put an Ageless Mentor on it. So all of that flying charge damage really, really adds up, and the result is kind of a heavy burn deck that really works out very, very well for aggressive starts. So getting an Ageless Mentor in addition to your other cards works really, really well. Ageless Mentor also has good synergy with Whispering Wind, because Whispering Wind can discard cards to draw more 3, 4, and 5 drops into your hand so that you can buff them up with the Ageless Mentor. You can typically get 2 or 3 of them with Ageless Mentor with this particular style of deck, because even our low drops, like Northwind Herald, actually cost more than 4. So Northwind Herald as a 5/4 flyer, actually a pretty respectable play on turn 2. So yet more synergy with Herald is sort of what makes Herald a better card in this matchup than it might be in other like sort of kooky combo decks. So yeah, like really, really fun stuff there. It's also a good way to protect Herald if you want to turn it into a 7-drop because it makes it immune to Torch. So many, many cool things going on with that. Okay, so for our final card that's real fun, we have Shogun of the Wastes. This 3/3 with double damage has summoned your units deal double damage this turn. This is rarely the correct burn card to use, the correct rally, as the case may be, but in this case it's actually perfect because our aggression happens to be Skycrag aggression, which means lots of flying, extremely damaging units. Shogun of the Wastes turns are 5/2 Soulfire Drakes into 10 damage bombs. If they're at 7, then it's 14. The Northwind Heralds that people generally tend to ignore when you don't have unstable forms in your hand do 6. And you can also like set up some pretty good stuff with any of your unstable formed Ageless Mentors or other cool things like that. If Shogun of the Wastes doesn't end up being a terribly useful card for you after his summon effect is played, you can still morph him into a 6-drop with unstable form, so there's a lot of potential there with that strong summon effect. This is one of the best decks to use Shogun of the Wastes in, and I'm really glad that we found a place for him. I really like him here. So yeah, I'm pretty delighted to have a deck with Shogun of the Wastes in it. And I'm always glad to find places to use specific legendaries. So if you're looking for a place to use Shogun of the Wastes, here's your deck. Okay, additional burn. We have 4 Obliterates and 2 Flame Blasts to close out the game. We run 1 Furnace Mage. They're easier to get with Whispering Winds than normal, so it's okay to run 1, although 2 is also perfectly respectable. And we also run Jotun Hurlers to give us 1 more small spell to cast Northwind Herald off of, as well as to give us like a little bit of extra burn and control. Snowballs are particularly useful in getting rid of early units. There's quite a few different types of things that it works well with, but it's also good for getting rid of 2-drops after playing down an Alpine Tracker. So Jotun Hurler can just add a little bit of extra damage to any of the damage that you're dealing to make it exactly lethal for a particular unit. That's really, really important, and Jotun Hurler is also an excellent target for unstable form. Unless you happen to turn him into a plated demolisher, in which case he dies instantly. I'd be a little bit careful about that. It's not a very high percentage chance, but I've had it happen twice to me in, I think, less than a week, so just something to think about. Since all of these units are high-cost cards, they're very effective targets for unstable form. Typically, the 3 to 5 to 6 range is where you want to be casting your unstable forms, and also you want to be casting your unstable forms on units that have very good summon effects but fairly poor stats. That's something that matches Ageless Mentor, something that matches Alpine Tracker, something that matches Shogun of the Wastes, Jotun Hurler's Fate Effect, and to a very lesser extent, Furnace Mage, I would say. So lots of different targets for unstable form, a lot of really good internal synergies in the deck. One last thing that I should note that's really, really fun is that Alpine Tracker has charge. And having charge is actually important because a unit with charge is readied the turn it is played and can attack the turn it is played. That effect actually persists after you unstable form the unit. So if you were to play Alpine Tracker down on turn 5, deal a bunch of damage to your opponent's, say, scouting party, you can then morph it into a 5-drop that has charge, or sort of has charge. At the very least, it can attack this turn. That's also useful for cards like Soulfire Drake, and for anything affected by Soulfire Drake's Entomb effects. You can get some really, really big and scary, unstable, just giant burn units out of this particular style, and I think that's really, really effective in setting up just a wonderful set of combos. So that's the basic interplay of synergies in this deck. I think this deck is actually relatively competitive. We've had some good games with it. I don't know if it would be a solid master deck, but I think it can get you into high diamonds pretty easy, and I wouldn't be surprised if you could make master with something like this. It's certainly a fun deck to try if you wanted to run it. So with that, let's look at a couple of games, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the deck as we are. Go ahead and talk a little bit more after we're all done. So, all right. So first up, we're up against Flanders. Got a Seed of Fury and a Seed of Wisdom. Torch plus Levitate equals Northwind Herald. There are some things to be liked about this hand. It's not necessarily going to be able to play anything until turn 3, but kind of into it. I think overall I'm just a little bit worried about this Soulfire Drake and Flame Blast with only 1 fire. And since the power's kind of awkward anyways, we might give this one a pass. Okay, a little bit better this time. Not amazing. I didn't pick up yellow, and Northwind Herald is not yet playable. I've got to find a Levitate
Time quickens.
or something along those lines to actually get my damage going. If my opponent plays down a False Prince, we'll probably have to torch it, and that's going to leave us a little bit on the rough side. But this looks like it's more likely to be a Shimmer Pack deck with the Initiate and the Taller's Favor here. So that's actually really good news for us since we have Alpine Tracker here for later game fun. I'm going to hold off on the torch for one more turn. Seed of Impulse is pretty solid. Ooh, I actually did that wrong, I think? No, it doesn't matter. So I can Flame Blast or Torch here, but I can't do both. Torch is pretty tempting just because Initiative of the Sands is going to allow him to play Xenon Obelisk pretty early, and I'm a bit worried about that. I think killing the Initiative of the Sands is not a bad idea for me. But on the other hand, we're getting pretty close to Alpine Tracker. I can wait. We're going to use the torch to get the Northwind Herald out early if we can, so Obelisk it will have to be. Do I want a torch now? I can still wait. Okay, so Levitate here. Get that guy up into the air. And then we will seek power for a blue. We can use to play Alpine Trackers.
The storm is upon you.
Northwind Herald does this job, and from here I have to consider whether or not I want to torch initiate. The answer is probably yes, but I suppose I'm not in a hurry. Let's do it. Now the Alpine Trackers plus the Northwind Herald give me a decent amount of just reach in the air, which is really what I'm looking for at this point. I've got Shogun of the Wastes for damage later on, so we're just going to pull some power. Play an Alpine Tracker. And swing for a bunch of damage. This is 3/6 with Shogun of the Waste. I think Alpine Tracker seems like a better idea. Oh, Soulfire Drake is perfect here. I will go ahead and play one out. And from here, Shogun of the Waste should help push through the remaining damage that I need. It could be a Scorpion Wasp or something along those lines, but no, it's Scouting Party! That's a big party, but we'll go ahead and Shogun.
Strike now, Ronin.
And that'll be game. Answered the Shimmer Pack just fine. Here we are for round 2 against Scudzilla. I love this opening hand. We've got the Ageless Mentor, which is a really important card. Whispering Wind sets up nice and early, and the power's even nice and even. You don't always get super even power curves like this, and definitely having access to all the early stuff is really what we want to see. So this is just about the perfect hand. I even like this unstable form. It's really good on Whispering Wind after it gets silenced, or Ageless Mentor after it's been played out. So now, in terms of influence, we're looking for triple red. We've got probably only single blues. I can't remember if there's a double blue in here. I'm pretty sure there is not, but it's only single blues and single yellows. So, oh, there is one double blue, and that's Alpine Tracker, of course. Yeah, for the most part, we're only looking for 3 red, 2 blue, and 1 yellow. And the 1 yellow is for Ageless Mentor. So we can throw the rest away if we need to. It's mostly about getting the influence for Soulfire Drake in terms of overall power. Second Soulfire Drake looks pretty good.
Can you hear me?
I'm gonna go ahead and throw out the Whispering Wind. We're gonna see if that gets torched. My opponent's playing either Armory or Rakano aggro, so there's pretty likely to be a Torch or a Sword of Ikaria here. I could get lucky, and indeed I have. So Seed of Fury gets played. I'm gonna go ahead and discard one of these unstable forms because these 2 Soulfire Drakes both represent really powerful 5-drops. We want to see another big drop in our hand before we play Ageless Mentor. Oh, beautiful. So here comes the Ageless Mentor.
To reflect.
I've now got 3 7 damage burn spells for 5 in my hand. And those burn spells happen to be pretty good against the more awkward and difficult Armory deck. So let's go ahead and unstable form here.
Thank you for
Got myself
your
a Soul Collector, which isn't particularly great. I'm probably going to Levitate here. And Skycrag Banner seems less useful than Time Sigil at this point, so we'll discard Skycrag Banner. We only need 5 power. And we picked up our 1 Furnace Mage. Good stuff. One damage there is fine. Soul Collector's going to be doing a little bit of work here. I could discard Torch to keep drawing power. I think having Torch is kind of useful here. I'm going to just go Soulfire Drake. I think I'm good with my hand. Scud's looking for his 4th power and not finding it. He's gonna need to Auric Runehammer each of these Soulfire Drakes in turn, but I've already got enough damage. I think we're probably good to go. Soulfire Drake here. Again, I'm pretty good with my hand. We get a whole 2 life out of that Soul Collector. Feels pretty good. And from here... Oh, no response from Scud. Well, we get to revel in our triple Soulfire Drakes, so... I think that game's still kind of worth it just to demonstrate the weird power of this deck. Alright, here we are with a Seek Power Levitate and Northwind Herald in the opening hand. I think this looks pretty reasonable. I've got a decent aggro unit to start with. I've got Torch, I've got Obliterate. Hand's a little bit awkward, but I've got 3 power and I've got the ability to perhaps get into red. The main risk here is if my opponent doesn't play units and is playing some sort of control deck, then I don't get to play an aggressive unit, which is a feature of the deck that is not particularly fun. But I think we'll be fine in that situation. Let's keep this hand. Seed of Wisdom here, and we hold on to Seek Power because Seek Power is our activator for Northwind Herald. Alright, so that's fine. We'll go ahead and play a Primal here. I'm still going to hold on to Seek Power. There's only a 1/3 drop that I can draw, and that is not a card that I really need to play immediately. So we can be a little bit greedy here. From here, I think I'm probably going to go Seek Power Torch. Get myself a fire. Throw the Torch. Throw both Northwind Heralds. And now I've got 6 damage on turn 3. Not too bad. 2 3/2 flyers. Decently aggressive, and we picked up enough red to actually start pushing for Alpine Tracker. I do need to find double red for Tracker and Obliterate. It would be nice to find a red power next turn. That's fine. Start my turn. There's the red. It isn't quite what I'm looking for, but it's pretty close. Gonna go ahead and play it out. And we'll just push some damage. I might Levitate here just to see what happens. Yeah, let's go ahead and Levitate and see if we can get a better card. Seek Power. Alright. Not too bad. We'll go ahead and pick up the 3rd fire that we need for Soulfire Drake. And from there we can play Alpine Tracker and start rushing, or we can Obliterate a Sandstorm Titan, which seems pretty likely at this point. Alright, Sandstorm Titan, down you go.
Now, fire!
Shogun of the Wastes is pretty cool here. Not amazing, but I can at least kill a Seraph or something along those lines. Furnace Mage gets rid of the Infinite Hourglass, which I think is fairly relevant here. I can wait on Shogun for a little bit.
Melt it down.
We do see Vanquish. There's not that many of my cards that actually do anything difficult with Vanquish. Alpine Tracker here feels pretty equivalent to Shogun of the Wastes. Either one kills Seraph and forces a board. Let's see here. If I actually play Alpine Tracker and attack, Seraph can't defend, so that's 6 damage.
It ends here.
Just another fun use of Alpine Tracker, pushing damage through Seraphs. It's easy to forget that Tracker can do this, of course, but yeah, I think I like it. I'm guessing my opponent will choose not to block. Nope. Looks like he's actually being very, very defensive. Primal Sigil here isn't important since we either draw a Flame Blast or we draw a power and we play a power, so...
This ends now!
That seems like a very premature harsh roll, but I understand the sentiment, so... certainly is an appropriate reaction to what I'm playing. Shogun of the Wastes is not a good card to play here. We're not going to do it unless we have something to play down. Time Sigil looks fine, and I'm drawing dead, but that's okay. We just need to get ourselves some Soulfire Drakes. Speed of progress. Ah, the torch isn't bad. Certainly can hold on to that. Flame Blast will help me finish out here. Go ahead and start my turn. Ah, there we go, Ageless Mentor. Now the question of whether or not to play Shogun of the Wastes and attack with Mentor is an interesting one. I can get 2 damage out of that result, but I can get some damage out of that result with Torch. But the main risk is that I lose Torch, which I don't really love. I think this looks a lot better. Alpine Tracker attacks, and then I get Shogun of the Wastes next turn.
It ends here.
Playing with both of these guys. Either one blocks, I get the Torch on the Sandstorm Titan. That's one less Sandstorm Titan in the world. I usually wait until after damage to play the Torch. That was a misplay on my part. There could have been a Finest Hour or something along those lines. It doesn't matter in this scenario, but it's important to note. Okay, Seed of Impulse here does get played. Shogun of the Wastes is probably going to have to get played. Depends on what my opponent's doing. I could see a Great Parliament here, and that would be very bad. What else have we got? Okay, got another Torch, so Shogun seems good here.
Strike now, Ronin.
Flame Blast is lethal regardless, so I'm not going to torch his face. I got this 5/5. The 5/5 has double damage. Let's see what my opponent can do about that. Probably a Vanquish. Ombre Banner's there. Found a Levitate. A little bit late for that. We're running on empty, but we got a little time. We'll Levitate here. Time Sigil is nice. Flame Blast would be better. Hold on to the unstable forms because they're quite good with other cards. Whispering Wind.
Can you hear me?
I think I can live with that. She gets silenced, I can unstable form her into something a little bit bigger. No blocks there.
Think you can escape me?
Okay, let's see if we can get a cool 3-drop out of this.
I bring you aid.
Unstable form.
You cannot put out the light.
Dawnwalker's lovely. I'm gonna play Shogun of the Wastes here.
Strike now, Ronin.
Playing for 4. Could be a Desert Marshal. That'd be pretty bad. Okay, this is 6 damage. I think I can live with that. Or 7 damage, apparently. See, that's 1 plus... Oh yeah, it is double, so it's not double against units. That's a Sansari Brigand mistake. Alright, now if my opponent wants to attack me for 6 here, I think I can live with that.
You can escape me?
He did have a Desert Marshal. I think he drew it as a top deck. So let's see if we can unstable form ourselves a 6-drop to win the game. Quite a few 6-drops have flying, so I think that's quite possible.
Your power flows.
Oh, okay, we found a Torch, so first things first, let's see if the 6-drop works.
Your fight is not
Ooh,
ours.
that's beautiful. But I should just torch him. Got there. Good stuff. Okay, here we go. We're up against Becker. Early hand has nothing low in it, and no triple red for the Soulfire Drake, so we're going to throw this back. This looks a little bit more appealing. Whispering Wind sets up a little bit better for the Northwind Heralds, but potentially I should be able to get them out without any issues. And I've got triple red plus blue here. I just need to find a little yellow. Ooh. Alpine Tracker is a good follow-up. I do need to find a Levitate or a Seek Power here. Becker has played a Seek Power and is in Skycrag.
Got you.
That's almost worth a torch right there. I think I'm probably just going to go for Whispering Wind, though.
Can you hear me?
We'll see if he gets his card draw. Okay, he does get his card draw. Good old Yeti Spy doing his job. That's okay, though, because we will nullify Yeti Spy with Alpine Tracker. So we're not going to feel too bad about that. What I really need right now is to draw a time for Ageless Mentor. If I can pick that up, things get a little bit better for us. Okay, nothing too crazy going on here. I'm waiting on the torch because Northwind Heralds are really, really solid if I can pick up a Seek Power or a Levitate. So we don't really want to play it unless there's a very serious threat from Becker. Second Sight. I could pick up some Static Bolts, some interesting stuff, I think, in general.
A lovely party.
I'm going to torch that Yeti Spy now. Okay, Seed of Wisdom sets up Ageless Mentor. And now we have a 5/5 Charger next turn, plus a 7/4 Charger. I think we're feeling a lot better about our odds. No blocks there. We'll take the 4. We're gonna race you. That seems pretty likely.
It ends here.
Think for 7. Opponent doesn't have a solid answer to Alpine Tracker, which is good news. Shadow Sigil plus... Ooh, Scouting Party. Need ourselves another Tracker if we can get it. That'd be pretty grand. Obliterate's pretty tempting. I think here I just play Soulfire Drake and Pressure. I don't care how many cards he draws as long as he dies. He's guaranteed to block with one of the Yetis if he wants to live. If he doesn't block one of the Yetis, then he doesn't get... Oh. Alright, that'll probably be game then. He's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage plus 4 card draws, and then we just obliterate his face. Even if he picks up an Annihilate here, which I don't doubt that he can.
With this, you can't miss.
Oh, is that lethal? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? You could always find a torch here, because that actually would kill me. Got the torch? Don't have the torch. Leaving some units back for blockers. I actually think you go kamikaze here just to get the torch. Because I do win here. There's no way that he can survive if he just attacks. Permafrost was a very good pickup. I wonder if he's running torches. I assume he is. Oh, he would have gotten it. He would have had the lethal. But he doesn't have it now.
Now, fire!
I could have also been a little bit more patient with my Alpine Tracker, but yeah, I think we both misplayed a little bit there, and worked out just fine. So as you can see, stacking Soulfire Drakes with Ageless Mentor is just a delightful time. Alpine Tracker is a really good answer to Scouting Party, although you do sometimes have to save it if you suspect the Scouting Party. Furnace Mage can be a pretty good Ageless Mentor target. There's just so many different cool targets for Ageless Mentor here, and there's just a really fun deck to be running Alpine Tracker in. I think that this is going to be a general Skycrag style. I know people are generally pegging Skycrag as the spell deck, but there is a lot to be said about flying units and burn for pushing through damage. This should be a solid archetype come set 2, and there should be a lot of interesting, tricky tricks that Skycrag can get up to. There's a lot of weird combo potential in Skycrag, and Alpine Tracker has just shown us the very, very tip of that iceberg with a very, very simple card that actually has some fun synergies already in set 1. So, yeah, I hope you guys liked the deck. We will be back with more Funstable Brews very soon. Funstable Brews. This is Eternal Brews, but yes, I'm writing an article about this as well on RNG Eternal, so if you want to check that out, look for Funstable Brews, Logo Pojo, and feel free to like or subscribe to this video if you like it, and if you like the channel and you want to see more brews. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.